My name is Emma Carter. I'm 26 years old, and I just received the cruelest text from my father on Christmas Eve that would change our family forever. Before I continue this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. The text message glowed on my phone screen like a poisonous thing. December 24th, 7:30 in the evening. I was sitting in my small but pristine apartment downtown, wrapping the last of the Christmas presents I'd bought for my family. Expensive presents. The kind I always bought because despite everything, I loved them. "You're not setting foot here on Christmas, you idiot." That's what my father wrote. No explanation. No context. Just pure venom distilled into 9 words and one cruel insult. My hands trembled as I held the phone. Not from fear. Not even from hurt. Though there was plenty of that. My hands trembled from the decade of suppressed rage that suddenly demanded to be acknowledged. I read the message 3 times. Each time, a different emotion washed over me. First, the familiar sting of rejection I'd felt since childhood. Second, the crushing disappointment that even now, even after everything I'd done, I still wasn't enough for him. Third, and most powerfully, a cold clarity that settled over me like snow. My father, Richard Carter, had always been a difficult man. That's what people called him when they were being polite. Difficult. Set in his ways. Old-fashioned. The truth was simpler and uglier. He was a bully, a manipulator, a man who measured love and control and dispensed approval like a miser counting coins. I was the youngest of 3 children and the only daughter. My brothers, Marcus and James, were golden boys who could do no wrong. They'd both gone into business, both married women my father approved of, both had children. They were successes by Richard Carter's rigid definition. I was the disappointment. The girl who'd studied social work instead of business. The woman who'd chosen to help struggling families instead of climbing corporate ladders. The daughter who'd refused to marry the son of my father's business partner when I was 22. That last offense, I think, was the one he'd never forgiven. For 4 years I'd endured his passive-aggressive comments, his deliberate exclusions. His casual cruelty disguised as tough love. Family dinners where he'd praise my brother's achievements while asking me if I was still playing social worker. Holiday gatherings where he'd introduce my brother's wives as the daughters I actually wanted, while I stood right there. Birthday cards that came with lectures about my life choices instead of warm wishes. My mother, Patricia, was a sweet woman who'd spent 35 years being gradually eroded by my father's dominance. She loved me. I knew that. But she'd learned long ago that peace in the Carter household meant choosing Richard's side in every conflict. My brothers had inherited our father's casual dismissiveness toward me. They saw nothing wrong with how he treated me, because they'd been raised to see his worldview as correct. But here's what none of them knew. Here's the secret I'd kept for almost 3 years. I wasn't some struggling social worker barely making ends meet in a tiny apartment. I wasn't the failure they all thought I was. 3 years ago, my maternal grandmother, Dorothy Sullivan, had passed away. She'd been a brilliant woman, a successful businesswoman who'd made a fortune in real estate in the 1960s and 70s when women in business were rarities. She'd loved me fiercely, had encouraged my education, and had been the only family member who'd told me my compassion was a strength, not a weakness. In her will, Grandma Dorothy had left me everything. Her entire estate. $4.3 million in assets, including a portfolio of rental properties across the state, stocks, bonds, and a considerable amount of liquid cash. She'd left my mother a generous monthly stipend, but the bulk of the estate came to me. There were conditions, of course. The will stipulated that I couldn't tell anyone in the family about the inheritance until I was either 30 years old or until I chose to reveal it myself. Grandma Dorothy had known exactly what kind of man my father was. She'd seen how he treated me. Her will included a letter that explained everything. "Emma, my darling girl," she'd written, "I'm leaving you this fortune because I know you have the wisdom to use it well and the strength to handle the burden it brings. I've made it secret because I know Richard will try to control it, your brothers will resent it, and even your mother might inadvertently let it slip. When you're 30, or when you decide the time is right, you can choose to share this information. Until then, Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're struggling. Watch carefully and learn who truly loves you for yourself, and who only values you for what you can give them. I trust you completely. Use this gift to build the life you deserve. For 3 years, I'd followed her instructions to the letter. I'd lived modestly, below my means, in a nice but unassuming apartment. I'd kept my job at the social services agency, though I'd secretly funded several initiatives that helped my clients. I'd watched and learned, and what I'd learned was heartbreaking. My father had become more openly contemptuous as he believed I was more financially dependent on family goodwill. My brothers had stopped inviting me to family events, unless it was a command performance from Dad. My mother had started giving me pitying looks and care packages of leftovers, believing I couldn't afford proper groceries. Only one person had remained constant. My best friend, Daniel Martinez, who I'd known since college. Daniel knew about the inheritance. He was a lawyer and had helped me manage the legal aspects of the estate. He'd been urging me for months to tell my family the truth, especially after incidents of particularly cruel treatment. "They don't deserve your generosity," he'd said just last week. "The way they treat you is abusive, Emma. You don't owe them anything." But I'd resisted, because despite everything, they were my family. Because I kept hoping my father would wake up one day and actually see me. Because I was afraid that revealing the truth would destroy what fragile connections remained. The Christmas text message changed everything. I sat there in my apartment, surrounded by expensive gifts wrapped in elegant paper, and something inside me shifted. It wasn't a dramatic moment. There were no tears. I simply picked up my phone and typed 2 words. "All right." That's all I sent back. 1 word. Calm. Accepting. Final. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I made a phone call to Daniel. "I need you to draw up some documents," I said when he answered. "And I need you to do it tonight. Tomorrow's Christmas, and I need these ready to serve by the day after." "Emma, what happened?" I read him the text message. There was a long silence on the other end. "That son of a—" Daniel stopped himself. "Okay, what do you need?" "Everything," I said. My voice was steady, controlled. Years of swallowing rage had taught me to keep my emotions carefully locked down. "I need eviction notices. I need financial statements. I need every document that proves what I actually own. And I need a complete breakdown of every cent I've given them over the past 3 years without them knowing." "You're serious?" "Completely. It's about damn time," Daniel said, and I could hear him already typing. "I'll have everything ready by tomorrow afternoon. Where should I meet you?" "My place. Come around too." "Emma, are you sure about this? Once you do this, there's no going back." "I'm sure," I said. "He called me an idiot and banned me from Christmas. The man who's been living in my house, driving cars I paid for, whose country club membership I've been secretly funding for 3 years. He called me an idiot. Then let's show him exactly how idiotic you're not," Daniel said grimly. We spent the next 2 hours on the phone while he worked. He was at his office, pulling files, drafting documents, compiling evidence. I sat in my apartment and finally let myself do something I'd been avoiding for 3 years. I looked at the numbers. All of them. My grandmother's estate had grown since I'd inherited it. Smart investments, good property management, and a booming real estate market had pushed the value to nearly $5.7 million. But that wasn't all. There was something else. Something I'd done with my grandmother's gift that no one knew about. The Carter family home, the massive 5-bedroom colonial where I'd grown up, where my parents still lived, where my father ruled like a petty tyrant. I owned it. Not my parents. Me. It had happened 2.5 years ago. My father had mentioned casually at a family dinner that the mortgage was killing them, that they might have to sell and downsize. My mother had looked devastated. She'd lived in that house for 30 years. It was her pride and joy, her refuge, the place where she'd raised her children. So I'd done something impulsive. Through a complex series of legal maneuvers that Daniel had helped arrange, I'd bought the house through an anonymous LLC. My parents thought they'd refinanced with a generous bank that had given them incredibly favorable terms. In reality, they'd refinanced with me. The mortgage payments they made each month went into an account I controlled. They'd lived in my house for 2.5 years without knowing it. I'd done it because I loved my mother and couldn't bear to see her lose her home. I'd done it because, despite everything, I believed family meant helping each other. I'd done it because I was the idiot my father thought I was. Until tonight. Now, I pulled up the mortgage documents and stared at them. My name was on every page, hidden behind the corporate veil of Sullivan Holdings, LLC, named after my grandmother. I owned the house outright. The monthly mortgage payments my father complained about were essentially rent he was paying to me. More than that, I'd been secretly helping my family in dozens of other ways. My father's beloved BMW that he'd bragged about getting a great deal on 3 years ago, I'd anonymously purchased it through another LLC and arranged for a dealer to give him a special price that was actually me subsidizing nearly $40,000. My mother's country club membership that she cherished. The club had mysteriously waived most of the fees 2 years ago, which was actually me paying them directly. My brother's children's private school tuition had been partially covered by a mysterious scholarship fund that was, of course, me. In total, over the past 3 years, I'd given my family approximately $470,000 without them knowing. $470,000 while they treated me like a failure. While my father called me an idiot. I made a spreadsheet. Every transaction, every payment, every gift, every penny. By the time I was done, it was past midnight. Christmas Day had arrived, and for the first time in my adult life, I wouldn't be spending it with my family. The realization should have hurt more than it did. My phone had been buzzing intermittently while I worked. Text messages. I'd been ignoring them. Now I looked. My mother. Emma, sweetheart, please call me. Your father didn't mean it. Come tomorrow, please. My brother Marcus. Don't be dramatic. Dad's just stressed. Come for Christmas. My brother James. Mom's crying, just apologize and come tomorrow. Apologize? For what? For existing. For being the daughter instead of another son. For choosing a career that helped people instead of one that made money. I didn't respond to any of them. Then, at 12:47 in the morning, my phone rang. My father. I declined the call. It rang again immediately. Declined. Again. Declined. Then the flood started. My mother called. Declined. Marcus called. Declined. James called. Declined. My father again. Declined. My sister-in-law, Marcus's wife, Jennifer. Declined. My other sister-in-law, James's wife, Caroline. Declined. My father. My mother. Marcus. James. My father. My father. My father. In the span of 20 minutes, I received 45 phone calls. 45 attempts to reach me after my father had told me I wasn't welcome in his home. Not a single text message apologizing. Not one voicemail saying, "We're sorry. We love you. Please come home." Just increasingly frantic calls as they realized I wasn't going to engage. I knew what was happening. They were panicking because I'd accepted the banishment without a fight. For years, I'd been the one trying to fix relationships, smoothing over conflicts, accepting blame I didn't deserve to keep the peace. My calm, all right, had terrified them because it was completely out of character. They should have been terrified. At 1 a.m, I turned my phone to silent and went to bed. I slept better than I had in years. Christmas Day dawned cold and clear. I woke up at 8, made myself coffee, and actually enjoyed the quiet morning. No stress about what gift my father would criticize. No anxiety about what cutting remark he'd make. No need to watch my mother's face crumple when he inevitably said something cruel. Just peace. Daniel arrived at 2 as promised, carrying a leather briefcase stuffed with documents. "Merry Christmas," he said, though his expression was grim. "I brought you the gift of cold, hard truth." We spread the papers across my dining table. Eviction notices for my parents, giving them 60 days to vacate the property I owned. Financial statements showing the complete ownership structure of the house. Mortgage documents with my signature. The full accounting of every cent I'd spent on my family over 3 years. Copies of my grandmother's will. Everything. The eviction might seem harsh, Daniel said carefully, but it's legally necessary if you want them out. You've been more than generous with the notice period. Legally, since they thought they owned the house, this is going to be complicated, but the paperwork is airtight. Your grandmother's lawyers were thorough. What about the money I've given them? I asked. Can I claim any of it back? Legally? Most of it was gifts, so no. But morally? You don't owe them another cent. He pulled out another document. I also took the liberty of drafting this. It's a formal cease and desist letter regarding the verbal abuse and harassment you've documented over the years. You don't have to use it, but it's available if they escalate. I looked at the mountain of paper that represented the destruction of my family relationships. I just wanted them to love me, I said quietly. Daniel reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I know, but Emma, they don't get to abuse you and benefit from your generosity at the same time. You can't buy love. You can only give it. And they never gave it back. He was right. I knew he was right. There's one more thing, Daniel said. He pulled out a final document. Your father's business is in trouble. Bad trouble. I did some digging last night. Carter Consulting is about 3 months away from bankruptcy. He's been hemorrhaging clients for the past year and a half. The only thing keeping him afloat has been the fact that his personal expenses were so low, because you've been secretly paying for everything. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. How bad? Bad enough that if he has to suddenly pay an actual mortgage, car payments, and his real country club fees, he'll have to declare bankruptcy within weeks. Your generosity hasn't just been helping him live comfortably. It's been the only thing preventing his complete financial collapse. Does he know that his business is failing? Probably. That you're the reason he hasn't failed yet? Absolutely not. Daniel's expression was dark. Emma, this man has been on the verge of losing everything, and instead of being humbled, instead of being grateful for the mysterious good fortune that's been keeping him afloat, he's been treating you worse than ever. He called you an idiot while living in your house, driving your car, and enjoying luxuries you paid for. The irony was so bitter it was almost funny. So what happens when I pull the plug? I asked. He loses everything within a month. Maybe less. Daniel's voice was gentle but firm. I'm not saying this to influence your decision. I'm saying this so you understand the full scope of what you're doing. This isn't just about the house. This is about his entire life falling apart. I thought about that text message. You're not setting foot here on Christmas, you idiot. I thought about a lifetime of being dismissed, belittled, and treated as lesser. I thought about my mother's tears, and my brother's indifference, and the $470,000 I'd given while being called a failure. Good, I said. Daniel nodded slowly. Then we proceed? We proceed. When do you want to serve them? I looked at the calendar on my phone. December 25th. The day after Christmas, I said. Let them have one last Christmas in that house. Then we tell them the truth. You're more generous than they deserve. I know, I said, but I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it because I need to know I handled this correctly. I need to know I gave them every chance. We spent the rest of Christmas Day preparing. Daniel walked me through every document, every potential legal challenge, every possible outcome. By the time he left at 7 p.m, I understood exactly what was about to happen, and exactly what it would cost. The calls had continued throughout the day. My phone showed 73 missed calls by the time I finally looked. Still no apologies. No text messages saying my father was wrong. Just increasingly desperate attempts to contact me, as if sheer persistence would make me fold. That night, I finally listened to the voicemails. There were 17 of them. My mother's voice, thick with tears. Emma, please, honey. It's Christmas. Your father. He says things he doesn't mean. Please call me back. I need to know you're okay. Marcus, irritated. This is ridiculous, Emma. You're being childish. Dad said you could come if you apologize. Just apologize and stop ruining Christmas. James, angry. You're tearing this family apart over one text message. Grow up, Emma. Mom's devastated. Just come over and fix this. My father's voice. And this one made my hands clench. I don't know what game you're playing, but it's not going to work. You need this family more than we need you. Stop being dramatic and come home. And bring those expensive gifts I know you can't actually afford. That last part. That casual reference to gifts he assumed I'd bought on credit, going into debt to try to win approval. The contempt in his voice. The absolute certainty that I had no power, no options, no worth, beyond what I could give to the family. He had no idea what was coming. The last voicemail was from my mother again, recorded around 11 that night. "Emma, I'm so worried. Please, just a text to tell me you're alive. I love you, sweetheart. Whatever's happened, we can fix it. Just please call me." I almost broke at that one. Almost. But then I remembered that my mother had stood by for 26 years, while my father destroyed my self-esteem piece by piece. She loved me, yes, but not enough to defend me, not enough to stand up to him. I didn't call back. December 26th arrived like a reckoning. I dressed carefully that morning. A tailored navy suit that I'd bought but never worn, not wanting to show any signs of having money. Professional, powerful, the kind of outfit that commanded respect. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. Not the diminished, apologetic daughter. Someone new. Someone who knew her worth. Daniel picked me up at 9. We'd decided to go together, both for moral support and for legal witness. He was dressed in a sharp gray suit, carrying his briefcase, looking every inch the successful attorney he was. "Are you ready for this?" he asked as we pulled out of my apartment complex. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm doing it anyway." The drive to my childhood home took 20 minutes. I'd made this drive hundreds of times, always with a knot of anxiety in my stomach, always bracing for whatever criticism awaited. Today was different. Today I was driving toward freedom. The house looked exactly as it always had. Large, imposing, with perfect landscaping that my mother obsessively maintained. 3 cars in the driveway, my father's BMW that I'd bought, my mother's Mercedes that she'd gotten as an anniversary present last year, and that I'd secretly subsidized, and Marcus's Range Rover. A family gathering. Perfect. "They're all here," I said. "Even better," Daniel replied. "Get it all done at once?" We walked to the front door. I didn't knock. I still had my key, though I hadn't used it in months. The door opened to reveal the familiar entryway, the sound of conversation from the living room, the smell of my mother's cooking. Home. Except it had never really been home, had it? My mother appeared from the kitchen, and her face transformed when she saw me. Relief, joy, and then confusion as she took in my professional outfit and Daniel beside me. "Emma! Oh, thank God. I've been so worried." "We all have been." She rushed forward to hug me, and I let her, feeling the guilt try to wrap around me like chains. "Your father will be so relieved. He's been... Well, come in. Come in. Who's this?" "Mom, this is Daniel Martinez. He's my lawyer. We need to talk to everyone." The word lawyer stopped her cold. "Your... lawyer? Emma, what's going on? Is everyone here?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Yes. Your father and brothers are in the living room. Emma, you're scaring me." "Good," I said quietly. "Now you know how I've felt for years." I walked past her into the living room. My father was in his usual chair, the big leather recliner he'd claimed as his throne. Marcus and James were on the couch with their wives. Everyone turned when I entered, and the expressions were a mix of relief, irritation, and confusion. "Emma," my father said, his voice carrying that familiar tone of condescension, "I see you've decided to be reasonable, though showing up with a lawyer is a bit dramatic, don't you think?" "Mr. Carter," Daniel said formally, stepping forward. "My name is Daniel Martinez. I'm Ms. Carter's attorney. I'm here to deliver some important documents and information." My father's face darkened. "What is this? Some kind of stunt?" "Dad," Marcus interjected. "What's with the lawyer? Are you in some kind of trouble, Emma?" "Sit down, Emma," my father commanded, pointing to a side chair. The chair I'd always been relegated to, never quite part of the main group. "Whatever this is, we can discuss it like adults." "No," I said. The word came out stronger than I'd intended. "I'll stand. This won't take long. My mother had followed us in, wringing her hands. Emma, please, whatever this is about, can't we discuss it calmly? That's what I'm here to do, Mom. Discuss things calmly, with evidence. I nodded to Daniel, who opened his briefcase and began pulling out documents. 3 years ago, I began, my voice steady despite the hammering of my heart. Grandma Dorothy passed away. You all attended the funeral. You all assumed she'd left her money primarily to Mom, maybe with some token amounts to her grandchildren. Emma, we don't need to discuss your grandmother's will, my father said impatiently. This is hardly the time. Actually, it's exactly the time, I interrupted. Interrupting my father. I'd never done that before. His eyes widened in shock. Grandma Dorothy left her entire estate to me. $4.3 million. That's grown to $5.7 million over the past 3 years. The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop on the carpet. Every face stared at me with identical expressions of shock. That's impossible, Marcus finally said. There's no way. It's completely true, Daniel said, pulling out documents. I have copies of the will right here. Emma inherited everything. The estate came with the condition that she not reveal this information to the family until she was 30, or until she chose to disclose it herself. You've had millions of dollars for 3 years? My father said slowly, his face turning red. While letting us think you were struggling? While accepting our help? I almost laughed at that. Your help? Dad, when have you ever helped me? When have any of you offered me anything but criticism and contempt? Now, Emma, that's not fair, my mother started. Isn't it? I turned to her. Mom, in the past 3 years, how many times has Dad made fun of my job at family dinners? How many times has he called social work, playing at helping people? How many times have you stood up for me? She looked stricken, but said nothing. You've been lying to us for 3 years, James said angrily. Pretending to be poor while sitting on millions. What kind of person does that? The kind of person whose grandmother knew exactly what her family was like, I replied. Grandma Dorothy made it a condition of the will because she knew the moment you all found out, everything would change. She wanted me to have time to see who you really were. This is ridiculous, my father blustered. If this is true, why are you telling us now? To brag? To make us feel bad? No, I said. I'm telling you because last night you sent me a text message telling me I wasn't welcome in my own house. Another stunned silence. What are you talking about? Marcus demanded. This is Dad's house. No, I said calmly. It's my house. Daniel? Daniel pulled out another set of documents. 2.5 years ago, Sullivan Holdings LLC purchased this property from the mortgage company that held your parents' original loan. The company then extended a new mortgage to Richard and Patricia Carter with extremely favorable terms. Sullivan Holdings LLC is owned entirely by Emma Carter. Your parents have been paying rent to Emma for the past 2.5 years without knowing it. If the first revelation had been a bomb, this one was a nuclear strike. My mother actually sat down hard on the nearest chair, her face pale. My father turned purple. That's impossible, he whispered. It's completely legal and completely true, Daniel said, distributing copies of documents to everyone. Emma owns this house. She has for 2.5 years. These are the mortgage documents, the LLC formation papers, and the deed. All legal, all binding. Emma, my mother said faintly, why would you do this? Because you were going to lose the house, I said, looking at her. Remember? You were devastated. Dad said you'd have to sell and downsize. I couldn't bear to see you lose your home, so I bought it. I gave you terms you could afford. I saved this house. By lying to us, my father snarled. No, I shot back. By helping you. By being generous when you didn't deserve it. By choosing love over pride. I pulled out my phone and pulled up the spreadsheet I'd made. Daniel, hand them the financial summary. Daniel distributed another document. This one was 3 pages long and itemized every cent I'd spent on my family over 3 years. $470,000, I said. That's how much I've given this family in the past 3 years. Your house, Dad's car, Mom's country club membership, Marcus and James's kids' school scholarships, the mysterious inheritance that paid for that cruise you all took last summer. Every penny came from me, while you called me a failure, while you treated me like I was nothing. Marcus was staring at the papers like they might bite him. The scholarship fund for our kids, that was you? All me, I confirmed. $20,000 per child per year for private school. Because they're my nieces and nephews and I love them, even if their parents treat me like garbage. Emma, that's not fair, James protested weakly. Isn't it? James, when's the last time you invited me to one of your kids' birthday parties? When's the last time you called me just to talk? You contact me exactly twice a year, Christmas and when you need something. He had no answer. I turned back to my father. You sent me a text message last night calling me an idiot and banning me from Christmas. From my own house, the house I saved, while driving the car I bought you, while living a lifestyle I funded. You called me an idiot. You manipulative little, my father started, rising from his chair. Careful, Daniel said sharply. Any threats or verbal abuse will be documented and can be used in legal proceedings. My father stopped, visibly shaking with rage. Legal proceedings? Are you threatening us? I'm not threatening anyone, I said. I'm explaining reality. Daniel pulled out the final set of documents. These are eviction notices for Richard and Patricia Carter. Emma is exercising her rights as property owner to reclaim her property. You have 60 days to vacate the premises. You're throwing us out? My mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. Emma, you're throwing your own parents out of their home. It's not your home, I said, and I hated how much this hurt. It's my home. It's been my home for years. And you're throwing me out? You're not welcome here? Those were Dad's words. I'm just making them official. This is insane, Marcus said, standing up. You can't just kick them out. They're old. Where will they go? They have 60 days to find somewhere, Daniel said. That's more than generous, legally speaking. Emma, please, my mother begged. Don't do this. Yes, your father said something cruel, but this is extreme. This is vindictive. No, Mom. Vindictive would be doing this without warning. Vindictive would be changing the locks today. Vindictive would be telling everyone in your social circle that you've been living on my charity for years while treating me like trash. I felt tears prick my eyes but refused to let them fall. I'm giving you 60 days. I'm giving you dignity. That's more than Dad gave me. What about the money we paid you for the mortgage? My father demanded. We want it back. All of it. That was rent, Daniel said flatly. You lived in Emma's property. You owe her for 3 years of housing. The money you paid didn't even cover the property taxes and insurance. If anything, you're in her debt. I won't let you do this, my father said. I'll fight this. I'll sue. For what? Daniel asked. Every document is legal. Every transaction is documented. You have no case. Furthermore, Mr. Carter, I should inform you that if you pursue legal action, Emma will countersue for harassment, defamation, and emotional distress. She has 3 years of documented abuse. Text messages, emails, witnesses. Your case would be thrown out and you'd face additional financial penalties. The fight went out of my father visibly. He understood. He'd lost. Emma, James said, think about what you're doing. This will destroy this family. This family was already destroyed, I replied. I just didn't realize I was the only one trying to hold it together. So that's it? Marcus demanded. You're just done with us? I'm done being treated like I don't matter, I corrected. If you want a relationship with me going forward, it will be on equal terms, with respect, without the constant criticism and belittling, without Dad controlling everything. And if we refuse? My father asked coldly. I met his eyes, and for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. Then you'll have 60 days to pack your things and find somewhere else to live, and the money will stop. All of it. The car? You'll start making real payments or it'll be repossessed. Country club? You'll pay full price or lose your membership. The mysterious good fortune you've been enjoying, it evaporates. You'd really do this to your own family? My mother sobbed. You did it to me first, I said quietly. Every time Dad called me stupid. Every time you let him. Every time my brothers treated me like a burden. Every single time I tried to share my accomplishments and was met with dismissal. You've been cutting me out emotionally for years. I'm just making the financial reality match. There was a long, painful silence. My family stared at me like they'd never seen me before. In a way, they hadn't. They'd seen the version of me they'd wanted to see. Diminished, controllable, forever seeking approval. Now they were seeing the real me, the one with power, the one who refused to be dismissed. There's one more thing, Daniel said, pulling out a final document. Emma has also had me prepare this cease and desist letter. Any further harassment, verbal abuse, or attempts to intimidate her will result in immediate legal action. This includes you, Mr. Carter, and extends to your sons. Emma is done being your emotional punching bag. My father looked like he wanted to say something venomous, but Daniel's warning stopped him. Instead, he sat back down heavily in his chair. How long have you been planning this? He asked. I wasn't planning it at all, I said honestly. Until you sent that text message, I was going to come here today with presents and smiles like I always do. I was going to endure another Christmas of casual cruelty, because I believed that's what family meant. You freed me from that delusion. Emma, my mother tried again. I know your father can be difficult. Difficult? I laughed, and it came out bitter. Mom, he called me an idiot. He banned me from Christmas. He spent my entire life telling me I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not successful enough. And you know what? While he was saying those things, I was paying his bills. I was saving his house. I was funding his lifestyle. Because I loved him. Because I kept hoping he'd love me back. My voice cracked. But he doesn't. He never has. And I'm done pretending that's okay. So you're just going to abandon us? James asked. No, I said. I'm going to stop setting myself on fire to keep you warm. There's a difference. Marcus looked at his wife, then back at me. What if we apologize? Would you change your mind about the house? An apology from you isn't worth anything, I said bluntly. You're only sorry because you found out I have money. If I was actually poor like you thought, you wouldn't care. None of you would. That's not true. Jennifer, Marcus's wife, spoke up for the first time. Emma, I've always liked you. I've told Marcus he should be nicer to you. But did you ever say that in front of him? I asked. Did you ever actually stand up for me when he was dismissing me? Or did you just feel privately bad while watching it happen? She looked down, unable to answer. That's what I thought, I said. I turned to Daniel. Are we done here? Legally, yes, he said. All documents have been served. Emma, do you want to say anything else? I looked around at my family one last time. My father, purple with impotent rage. My mother crying quietly. My brothers and their wives, shocked and confused. This was the family I'd tried so hard to please. The people I'd thought I needed. I felt nothing but relief that it was over. I'll say this, I began, my voice steady. Every single one of you had years to treat me with basic respect. Years to acknowledge that I was trying my best, that my career choice was valid, that I deserved kindness. You all chose not to. You chose to make me feel small because it made you feel big. That's over now. Emma, my mother started. I held up my hand. I'm not done. Mom, I love you. I do. But you enabled all of this. Every time you stood by while Dad tore me down, you chose his comfort over my well-being. That's not love. That's cowardice. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Marcus, James, I continued, looking at my brothers. You had the chance to be actual brothers, to support me, to defend me. You chose to be Dad's echo chamber instead. That was your choice. And Dad, I turned to him finally. You called me an idiot, but I'm not the one who's been living in someone else's house, driving someone else's car, and enjoying luxuries paid for by the person they're abusing. I'm not the one whose business is 3 months from bankruptcy, held afloat by secret financial help from the child they despise. So tell me, Dad, who's really the idiot here? His face went from purple to white. What did you say about my business? Oh, you didn't know I knew. I smiled, but it wasn't kind. Carter Consulting is failing. Has been for over a year. The only reason you're not bankrupt already is because I eliminated most of your personal expenses without you knowing. Every dollar you weren't spending on your mortgage, your car, your lifestyle. Those were dollars that kept your business limping along. You're welcome. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. He actually staggered, gripping the arm of his chair. Your secret help ends today, Daniel said formally. As of this moment, all financial support ceases. Mr. Carter, you now have your actual expenses to deal with. I suggest you start planning accordingly. You're going to destroy me, my father whispered. No, I said. I'm going to stop saving you. There's a difference. What happens next is entirely up to you and the choices you've made. You built a failing business. You lived beyond your means. You treated the person secretly helping you like garbage. Those were your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. I'm your father, he said. And for the first time ever, I heard something other than arrogance in his voice. Fear. You owe me. I don't owe you anything, I interrupted. I don't owe you obedience. I don't owe you money. I don't owe you my self-esteem or my dignity or my peace of mind. The only thing I ever owed you was honesty, and now you have it. This is who I really am. Someone with power who refuses to use it to earn love from people who should have given it freely. Please, my mother said, the word barely audible. Emma, please don't do this. I looked at her, this woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, loved me in her limited way, and failed me when it mattered most. The eviction notice gives you 60 days. In that time, if you want to have any relationship with me going forward, you're going to need to do some serious thinking about what kind of family you want to be, about whether respect and kindness matter to you, about whether I matter to you as a person, not just as a resource. Of course you matter, she sobbed. Then prove it, I said. For the next 60 days, no one contacts me unless it's to apologize. Really apologize. Not, I'm sorry you're upset, but I'm sorry I treated you terribly, and here's how I'm going to change. No guilt trips, no manipulation, no attempts to make me the villain in this story. I'm done being manipulated. And if we do apologize, Marcus asked, if we genuinely want to fix this, then we can talk about what a real relationship looks like, I said. One where I'm not constantly diminished. One where my choices are respected even if they're not what Dad would choose. One where I'm valued for who I am, not what I can give. That's a lot of conditions, James said. It's basic decency, I corrected. The fact that it sounds like a lot to you tells you everything you need to know about how badly this family has failed. I turned to leave, and Daniel followed me. As we reached the door, my father's voice stopped me one last time. You'll regret this, he said. You need us more than we need you. I looked back at him, this man who'd shaped so much of my pain, and felt the last chains break. No, Dad. You needed me. You just didn't know it. And now you're going to find out exactly how much. We left. As we walked to Daniel's car, I heard my mother wailing inside the house. It hurt, but not as much as staying would have hurt. How are you feeling? Daniel asked as we drove away. Free, I said. And then I started crying. Not sad tears. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. Oh my God, I actually did it. You did, he said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. I'm proud of you. They're going to hate me, I said. They already treated you terribly, he pointed out. What do you actually lose? He was right. I'd been so afraid of losing my family. But what family had I really had? A father who saw me as a disappointment, a mother who chose peace over protecting me, brothers who saw me as an afterthought. I hadn't lost anything today. I'd freed myself. The next few days were revealing in ways both painful and clarifying. My phone, which I'd turned back on, exploded with messages. But they weren't apologies. They were exactly what I'd expected. From my father. Your mother is devastated. I hope you're proud of yourself. You've destroyed this family over one text message. Selfish doesn't even begin to cover what you are. From Marcus. Dad's right. You're selfish. You've had millions while watching us struggle. You're not the person I thought you were. From James. I can't believe you'd do this to Mom. She doesn't deserve this. Whatever issues you have with Dad, she shouldn't have to suffer. My mother's messages were different but equally manipulative. Emma, I haven't slept in 2 days. I can't eat. I don't understand how you could do this to us. We're your family. Please reconsider. I'm begging you. Only one message was different. From Jennifer, Marcus's wife. Emma, I know you won't believe this, but I understand why you did what you did. I've seen how they treat you. I've told Marcus for years that it wasn't right. I'm sorry I never said it out loud when it mattered. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. And for what it's worth, I think you're incredibly brave. I responded only to Jennifer. Thank you. That means more than you know. To everyone else, I sent the same message. I will not engage with guilt trips or manipulation. If you genuinely want to apologize and rebuild a relationship, I'm willing to listen. Otherwise, please respect my boundaries. You have 57 days left on the eviction notice. I suggest you use them to find housing and do some soul-searching. The messages continued, escalating. My father tried anger, threats, guilt, and eventually bribery. If you cancel the eviction, we'll treat you better. I promise. Just give us another chance. I didn't respond. My brothers tried the angle of their children. You're punishing your nieces and nephews by doing this. They love their grandfather. You're taking their family home away. I responded to that one. Their grandfather called me an idiot and threw me out of that home. If you want to explain to your children why we don't see Aunt Emma anymore, you can start with that. The silence that followed lasted 2 days. Then Marcus called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Emma, he said, his voice careful. Can we talk? Just you and me. About what? About everything. About how we got here. I've been thinking about what you said. And you were right, about a lot of things. He paused. Can I take you to coffee? No tricks, no agenda, just, can we talk? I considered. Neutral location. Daniel comes with me. And if you try to ambush me or guilt trip me, I'm leaving. Fair. Marcus agreed. We met at a coffee shop the next day. Marcus arrived alone, as promised. Daniel sat at a nearby table, watching but giving us space. My brother looked terrible. Exhausted. Older somehow. Thank you for coming, he said as I sat down. You have 20 minutes, I said. Talk. He flinched at my tone but nodded. I've been an awful brother. I've known it for years, but I convinced myself it was okay because Dad treated you the same way, so it must be normal. Jennifer tore into me for 2 hours after you left on the 26th. She said things I needed to hear. She said I've been enabling Dad's abuse and participating in it myself. She's right, I said flatly. I know. He looked down at his coffee. Emma, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve the chance to apologize, but I'm going to try anyway. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I made you feel less than. I'm sorry I treated your career like a joke. I'm sorry I didn't defend you. I'm sorry I contacted you only when I needed something. You deserved so much better from me. I waited. There had to be more. Jennifer showed me something. He continued. She's been keeping track of all the good fortune we've had over the years. The scholarship fund for our kids that appeared out of nowhere. The grant that helped with my business expansion. The mysterious donor who paid for Jennifer's mother's medical treatments last year. Emma, was that all you? I said nothing, but my silence was answer enough. Jesus Christ, he whispered. You paid for Jennifer's mom's cancer treatment? That was $80,000. We thought it was some kind of charity program. It was, I said quietly. The Emma Carter charity program. Because Jennifer's mother is a lovely woman who didn't deserve to die because of medical bills. And you're my brother, even if you've been a terrible one. He put his head in his hands. I don't know how to fix this. You can't, I said. Not immediately. Trust isn't rebuilt in a single conversation. But can it be rebuilt at all? He looked up, and there were actual tears in his eyes. Or have I destroyed any chance of having my sister back? That depends, I said. Do you actually want your sister back? Or do you just want the money to keep flowing? I want my sister back, he said immediately. Then he paused. And I can see why you'd doubt that, given the timing. Emma, I swear to you, Jennifer showed me those records before we even knew about your inheritance. She's been on your side this whole time. She's been telling me for 2 years that we treat you horribly. I just didn't listen because it was easier not to. Why are you listening now? I asked. Because watching you walk out that door, seeing you ready to cut us all off completely, it finally penetrated my thick skull that I was losing something precious. Someone precious. My little sister who I should have protected, and instead I treated like Dad's stress relief target. His voice broke. I don't want to be him, Emma. I don't want to be the kind of man who makes his daughter feel worthless. But that's exactly what I've been doing to you. I felt something crack in my chest. Not breaking, but opening. Just a little. What about Dad? I asked. Are you going to stand up to him now? I already have, Marcus said. I told him 2 days ago that if he wants to have any relationship with my kids, he needs to genuinely apologize to you and change how he treats people. He told me I was betraying the family. I told him the family was already betrayed by him years ago. How did that go? About as well as you'd expect. He disowned me. Marcus laughed bitterly. Funny thing is, I feel better than I have in years. Turns out living under Dad's thumb wasn't actually making me happy. Who knew? Despite everything, I felt a small smile tug at my lips. Welcome to the Black Sheep Club. Membership. Previously just me. I'm sorry it took me this long to get here, he said. I should have joined you years ago. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I asked the question that mattered most. What do you want from me, Marcus? Really? I want to be your brother, he said simply. Not because of money. Not because of family obligation. But because I genuinely want to know the person you are. The person I should have been getting to know all along. He paused. And I want my kids to know their aunt. The real one. Jennifer's been telling them stories about you. About your work. About how you help families. They asked me yesterday why Aunt Emma never comes over. I didn't have a good answer. You could tell them the truth, I suggested. That Grandpa said something cruel and I decided not to accept cruel treatment anymore. Jennifer did tell them something like that. She said that sometimes even families need boundaries. And Aunt Emma is teaching all of us how to be better. He looked at me seriously. Emma, I'm not asking you to forgive Dad. I'm not even asking you to cancel the eviction, though Mom is losing her mind. I'm asking if there's any chance, someday, that you and I could have an actual relationship. One where I treat you with the respect you've always deserved. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Marcus had been complicit in my mistreatment, yes. But he was also the first one to actually acknowledge it, to apologize without conditions, to show genuine remorse. That had to count for something. Here's what I'll do, I said finally. We start over, completely. You don't get to call me only when you need something. You don't get to make jokes about my career. You don't get to side with Dad when he's being cruel. If you can do that, if you can show me over time that you actually value me as a person, then yes, we can rebuild. I can do that, he said quickly. Emma, I swear to you I can do that. And one more thing, I added. You don't pressure me about the eviction. That's between me and Mom and Dad. You don't try to guilt me. You don't try to negotiate on their behalf. You don't tell me I'm being too harsh. Their consequences are their own. He hesitated, and I saw the conflict in his eyes. But then he nodded. Okay, I won't lie and say I don't feel bad for Mom, but you're right. This is between you and them. Then we have a deal, I said. We'll start with coffee once a week. Just us. We'll actually talk about our lives. See if we can find the siblings we should have been. The relief on his face was profound. Thank you, he said. You're giving me way more than I deserve. Probably, I agreed. But Grandma Dorothy taught me that holding on to anger hurts you more than it hurts them. So I'm choosing to let you try. Don't make me regret it." "I won't," he promised. As we left the coffee shop, Daniel fell into step beside me. "That looked intense," he observed. "It was," I said. "But maybe productive? Marcus seems genuinely remorseful." "Actions speak louder than words," Daniel warned. "Don't let one good conversation make you forget 3 years of bad behavior." "I won't," I promised. I'm cautiously optimistic. Emphasis on cautious. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus proved his commitment. He called me every few days, not asking for anything, just talking. He told me about his work, his kids, his struggles with standing up to our father. He asked about my job, actually listened when I talked about my cases, and even donated to one of the charities I worked with. Small steps, but consistent ones. James, on the other hand, remained angry. His messages continued to be accusatory and guilt-laden. "You're tearing this family apart. Mom cries every day because of you. When Dad's business fails, that's on you." I eventually blocked his number. My mother continued her campaign of emotional manipulation. The messages came daily, hourly sometimes. Photos of her crying. Photos of the house she was about to lose. Photos of family memories with captions like, "Remember when we were happy?" I didn't respond, but each message hurt. That was the insidious thing about emotional abuse. Even when you recognized it, even when you knew you were doing the right thing, it still hurt. Daniel noticed. "You need to block her too," he said one evening as we reviewed some paperwork at my apartment. "This is harassment, Emma." "She's my mother," I said. "She's someone who's using your love against you," he countered. "That's not motherhood. That's manipulation." He was right, but I couldn't bring myself to block her completely. Instead, I muted her messages. I'd read them once a day, process them, and then delete them. It was healthier than responding, at least. My father remained silent. That worried me more than the messages. Richard Carter wasn't the type to accept defeat quietly. I'd expected rage, threats, more attempts to control. The silence felt ominous. The answer came 3 weeks after the confrontation. Daniel called me at work, his voice tight with anger. "Emma, your father is telling people that you've stolen his house through fraud. He's spreading it around his business contacts, his country club, anyone who'll listen. He's painting himself as the victim of a con artist's daughter." The words hit me like ice water. "What?" "He's claiming you forged documents, manipulated your grandmother's will, and stole his property through illegal means. He's telling anyone who'll listen that you're a criminal who's destroying your poor, innocent parents." I sat down hard in my office chair. Of course he'd do this. If he couldn't control the situation, he'd control the narrative. "What can we do?" I asked. "Legally, we can sue for defamation, and we will. But Emma, I need to prepare you. This is going to get ugly. He's not going to go quietly. He's going to try to destroy your reputation to save his." "Let him try," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. "We have documentation. We have the truth. Let him tell his lies. Truth has a way of coming out." But I underestimated how much lies could hurt, even when you knew they were lies. Over the next week, I started getting strange looks at the grocery store. A cashier I'd known for years was suddenly cold to me. A neighbor I'd always been friendly with crossed the street to avoid me. The rumors were spreading, and in my father's social circle, his version of events was being accepted as truth. Poor Richard Carter, betrayed by his ungrateful daughter. Poor Patricia Carter, about to lose her home because of her conniving child. It was Marcus who finally gave me the full picture. He called me one evening, furious. "Emma, I just came from the country club. Dad's there telling everyone you've been running a con for years. He's saying you faked Grandma Dorothy's will, that you tricked them into signing over the house, that you're mentally unstable and dangerous. People are believing him." "Let them," I said, though my stomach churned. "Emma, he's destroying your reputation. You need to fight back." "How? By screaming the truth at people who've already decided to believe his lies?" I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. Marcus, the people who believe him without asking for my side of the story aren't people whose opinions I value. But what about your job? What if these rumors reach your employer? That gave me pause. I worked with vulnerable families. If people thought I was a fraud, a con artist, it could destroy my career. The very career my father had always mocked. Then I'll deal with it, I said finally. But I won't fight lies with more lies. I won't stoop to his level. You're stronger than I am, Marcus said quietly. I don't think I could handle people thinking those things about me. You'd be surprised what you can handle, I replied, when the alternative is living a lie. The rumors did reach my employer. 2 days later, my supervisor called me into her office. Marjorie Chen was a 60-year-old woman who'd been in social work for 35 years. She'd seen everything and was not easily fooled. Emma, she said as I sat down, I've been hearing some disturbing rumors about you. Something about fraud and stealing from your family. My heart sank. What have you heard? She told me. The rumors had spread beyond my father's immediate circle. Someone at the country club apparently knew someone who knew someone at our agency. Now people were questioning whether I could be trusted with vulnerable families if I was stealing from my own. Is any of it true? Marjorie asked directly. No, I said. Then I paused. But there is truth underneath the lies. May I explain? She nodded, and I told her everything. Not just the recent events, but years of context. The emotional abuse, the inheritance, my secret financial support, the Christmas text, all of it. I showed her documents, the will, the house papers, the financial records, everything. Marjorie listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back in her chair with a long exhale. Your father is a piece of work, she said bluntly. Despite everything, I almost laughed. That's one way to put it. Emma, what you've described is a textbook case of familial financial abuse and emotional manipulation. You were the victim here, not the perpetrator. She tapped the documents I'd showed her. These prove everything you've said. Your father is lying because he lost control. That's what abusers do. The relief was overwhelming. So you don't think I'm a fraud? I think you're an abuse survivor who finally set boundaries. That takes incredible strength. She leaned forward. But Emma, I need you to understand something. This is going to continue. Your father is going to keep spreading lies. Some people are going to believe them. You need to be prepared for that. I know, I said quietly. And you need to protect yourself legally. Document everything. Every lie he tells. Every person he slanders you to. Build a case. When this goes to court, and I suspect it will, you need to be ready. She was right. Daniel had been saying the same thing. It was time to stop being reactive and start being strategic. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel and I built what he called the truth portfolio. Every document, every piece of evidence, every witness statement. Marcus provided a sworn affidavit about years of watching my father abuse me. Jennifer did the same. Even some of my parents' neighbors, who'd witnessed arguments, provided statements. We documented every lie my father told and to whom. We gathered copies of the emails he'd sent to business associates. We recorded the country club gossip. Everything. This is solid, Daniel said, reviewing the final compilation. If he wants to fight this in court, we'll bury him in evidence. But Emma, I think we should consider going on offense instead of defense. What do you mean? I mean, we file a defamation suit now. We don't wait for him to escalate. We take control of the narrative. We present the evidence publicly. We force him to defend his lies in court where truth actually matters. The idea was appealing but terrifying. That would make everything public. Everyone would know about my family's dysfunction. Everyone's going to know anyway, Daniel pointed out. Your father is making sure of that. The question is whether you want his lies to be the story people hear or your truth. He had a point. My father was writing the narrative. Maybe it was time I took the pen back. Let's do it, I decided. File the suit. The defamation lawsuit hit like a bomb. Not just because of the legal action itself, but because we attached the truth portfolio as evidence. Suddenly, everyone who'd been gossiping about me had access to the actual facts. The will, the house documents, the financial records showing my generosity, sworn statements from witnesses about my father's abuse. The narrative shifted overnight. People who'd been coldly avoiding me started approaching with apologies. I had no idea, they'd say. He made it sound so different. The neighbor who'd crossed the street to avoid me brought over a casserole and an embarrassed apology. The cashier at the grocery store looked mortified when I came through her line. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly. I believed him. I should have known better. You've always been so kind. It was vindicating and exhausting all at once. My father's response to the lawsuit was exactly what I'd expected: rage. He called me from a number I hadn't blocked, screaming about betrayal, about destroying him, about how I'd never be part of the family again. "Good," I said calmly, "because the family you're describing isn't one I want to be part of." Then I hung up and blocked that number too. The eviction deadline was approaching. 45 days had passed since I'd served the notice. My parents had 2 weeks left to vacate the property. According to Marcus, they still hadn't found anywhere to go. My mother was in denial, convinced I'd relent at the last moment. My father was too proud to actually start packing. "They think you're bluffing," Marcus told me over coffee, our 4th weekly meeting. "Dad keeps saying you won't actually go through with it." "Then he doesn't know me at all," I replied. "I think that's finally dawning on him," Marcus said. "Emma, I need to ask you something, and I need you to know I'm not trying to guilt you. I'm just gathering information." "Okay," I said warily. "Do you know what you're going to do with the house after they're out?" I did know. I'd been thinking about it for weeks. "I'm donating it," I said. Marcus blinked. "What?" "The house. I'm signing it over to a nonprofit that provides transitional housing for families escaping domestic violence. It's perfect for what they need. And it feels right. That house was never really a home for me. Maybe it can be a real home for people who need one." My brother stared at me for a long moment. Then he started laughing. Not mockingly, but with genuine surprised delight. "Oh my God, Dad is losing his mind trying to keep that house, and you're going to give it away. Emma, that's brilliant." "It's not about being brilliant," I said. "It's about making something good come from something painful. Grandma Dorothy taught me that." "She'd be so proud of you," Marcus said softly. "I wish I'd known her better." "She was an amazing woman," I agreed. "She knew exactly what she was doing when she set up that will. She wanted me to learn who I was without the family's influence. She wanted me to see what I was capable of. And she wanted me to learn who really valued me." "And did you learn those things?" "I did," I said. "I learned I'm stronger than I thought. I learned that love shouldn't cost your self-respect. And I learned that family is what you choose, not just who you're born to." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I want to be part of your chosen family, Emma. Not because we share DNA, but because I'm genuinely going to earn it. I want to be a brother you're proud of." "You're getting there," I said. And I meant it. The day before the eviction deadline, my mother called. I'd been expecting it, but it still hurt when her name appeared on my screen. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "Emma," she said, and her voice was so broken I almost broke with it. "Emma, please don't do this. This is my home. I've lived here for 30 years. I raised you here. How can you take this from me?" "Mom," I said gently, "I'm not taking it from you. I gave it to you. Years ago. I saved it when you were going to lose it. But I can't keep giving to people who treat me terribly just because I love them. That's not love. That's self-destruction. But where will we go? Your father's business has failed. We have nowhere." There it was. Confirmation of what Daniel had predicted. Carter Consulting was done. Without my hidden support, it had collapsed within weeks. "You have options," I said. "You have savings. You have other properties you can sell. You have 2 sons who can help you. What you don't have is the option to keep treating me like I'm worthless while living in my house." "I never treated you like you were worthless," she protested. "You stood by while Dad did," I said. "Every single time. That's the same thing, Mom. Silence is complicity. I love you," she sobbed. I love you too, I said. And it was true. But love isn't enough. Love without respect is just control with prettier words. So that's it? After everything, you're just done with us? I'm done being hurt by you, I corrected. If you ever want to have a real relationship with me, one built on mutual respect instead of my desperation for approval, the door is open. But it won't be on your terms anymore. It'll be on equal terms. Your father will never agree to that. Then I guess you have a choice to make, I said. Him or me. But you can't have both while he's actively destroying me. The silence stretched between us, thick with decades of dysfunction and missed opportunities. I choose you, she finally whispered. Emma, I choose you. But I don't know how. I don't know how to stand up to him after all these years. The same way I did, I said. One boundary at a time. Starting with moving out of my house tomorrow and finding your own path forward. Will you help us? She asked. With the moving? Not financially, just, will you be there? It was a trap, probably. A way to guilt me in person. But it was also my mother. And despite everything, I still loved her. I'll think about it, I said. Call me tomorrow morning. If Dad's not going to be there, if it's just you and people you've hired to help pack, I'll consider it. He won't be there, she said quickly. He's been staying with James for the past week. He can't even look at the house anymore. That detail told me everything. My father couldn't face losing, so he was literally running away from the evidence of his loss. Then call me tomorrow at 9, I said. We'll see. I hung up, feeling more confused than ever. Part of me wanted to hold firm to my boundaries. Part of me wanted to help my mother because I could see she was finally starting to question her choices. Part of me was just tired and wanted all of this to be over. I called Daniel. Emma, you do not have to help them move, he said immediately. That's way beyond what's reasonable to expect. I know, I said. But Daniel, she said she chooses me. She said she wants to try. What if this is the opening I've been waiting for? What if she's finally ready to change? Or what if it's a manipulation tactic to get you there so they can guilt you into letting them stay? He countered. That's why I said only if Dad's not there, I pointed out. If it's just Mom and movers, maybe it's genuine. Daniel sighed. You're too good for these people, you know that? I'm not good, I said. I'm hopeful. There's a difference. The next morning, my mother called at exactly 9. He's not here, she said. It's just me and the movers I hired. Will you come? I'm coming, I said. But Mom, if this is a trick, if Dad shows up, I'm leaving immediately. No guilt trips, no scenes. Are we clear? We're clear, she said. Emma, I promise. It's just me. I drove to the house that had been my childhood home, my prison, my responsibility, and soon would be neither. The moving truck was already there, and professional movers were loading boxes. My mother stood on the front porch, looking small and lost. She hugged me when I arrived. I let her, but I didn't hug back. Not yet. Thank you for coming, she said. I know you didn't have to. No, I didn't, I agreed. Why did you want me here, Mom? Really? She looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something other than pleading or sadness in her eyes. I saw understanding. Because you're my daughter and I've failed you. Because I want you to know that I'm trying to do better. And because I need you to see me actually leaving, actually making a choice, instead of just talking about it. That was more honest than I'd expected. Okay, I said. Show me. We spent the next 6 hours packing up 30 years of family history. It was strange and sad and occasionally cathartic. My mother cried several times, especially when packing up photos. I helped her sort through memories, keeping some, leaving others behind. You can take the furniture, I told her as we surveyed the living room. I'm donating the house furnished, but I know some of these pieces have sentimental value. Take what you want. Are you sure? She asked. I'm sure. That dining table was Grandma Dorothy's originally, right? Take it. She'd want you to have it. My mother started crying again. I loved my mother so much. I wish I'd been more like her. It's not too late to start. I said gently. We packed in silence for a while. Then my mother said, "Your father's business collapsed completely. We're essentially broke. I'm going to have to get a job for the first time in 35 years. What kind of job are you thinking about?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "I don't know. I have a degree in education, but I haven't worked in decades. Who's going to hire me?" She sounded terrified and lost. "Someone who needs what you have to offer," I said. "Mom, you've spent 35 years managing a household, raising kids, volunteering at school events, organizing charity functions. Those are skills. They transfer. You really think so?" "I know so." I pulled out my phone and opened a job search app. "Here, start looking. You might surprise yourself." She took the phone, studying it like it was a foreign object. Then she looked at me. "How did you get so strong? How did you learn to be so independent?" "I had to," I said simply. "Nobody was going to save me. So I saved myself." "I should have saved you," she said, her voice breaking. "I was your mother. I should have protected you from him." "Yes," I said. "You should have. But you can't change the past, Mom. You can only change what you do now." "What if it's too late?" she whispered. "What if I've destroyed any chance of having you in my life?" I thought about that. Really thought about it. Did I want my mother in my life, even after everything? The answer was complicated, but ultimately yes. Because unlike my father, unlike my brothers, my mother had never been cruel. She'd been weak. She'd been complicit, but not cruel. And she was trying right now to do better. That had to count for something. "It's not too late," I said finally. "But Mom, things can't go back to how they were. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be different. No more guilt trips. No more emotional manipulation. No more putting Dad's feelings above everyone else's. Can you do that?" "I don't know," she admitted. "That's how I've lived for so long. I don't know if I know how to be different." "Then you learn," I said. "The same way I learned to set boundaries. The same way Marcus is learning to be a better brother. You learn. Will you help me? Will you be patient while I figure it out?" I looked at this woman who'd given me life but hadn't known how to help me live it. "Yes," I said. "I'll be patient. But Mom, I won't be a doormat. If you slide back into old patterns, I'm going to call you out. And if you can't handle that, then we can't do this." "I can handle it," she said firmly. Then, more quietly, "I think I can handle it. I want to try." "Then we'll try," I said. By late afternoon, the house was packed. My mother had found a small apartment across town that she could afford with her half of my parents' remaining savings. My father, according to Marcus, was living with James temporarily, but was making everyone miserable. "He's talking about suing you again," Marcus had warned me earlier. "Some crazy theory about undue influence on Grandma Dorothy." "Let him try," I'd said. "The will is airtight. He'll lose and end up owing court costs." Now, as we finished the last box, my mother turned to me. "Will you come see the new apartment once I'm settled?" "Maybe," I said. "Let's take this one step at a time." "That's fair." She looked around the empty house. "I thought leaving this place would destroy me. But you know what? I feel lighter. Like I'm finally leaving behind more than just a house." "What are you leaving behind?" I asked. "The pretense," she said. "The pretending everything was fine. The making myself small to keep your father happy. All of it." She met my eyes. "Emma, I can't promise I'll be perfect at this, but I promise I'll try. I'm choosing you over his anger." "That's a start, isn't it?" "It is," I agreed. And despite everything, I felt hope. Just a little. But it was there. The movers finished loading the truck. My mother took one last walk through the empty house, touching walls, saying goodbye to a life that had been both shelter and prison. "What happens to it now?" she asked as we stood on the front porch. "Tomorrow it transfers to Safe Harbor Housing," I said. "They help families escaping domestic violence. This place will become transitional housing. Multiple families will live here, getting back on their feet, learning they don't have to accept abuse." My mother's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't sad. That's beautiful, Emma. That's so beautiful. Your grandmother would love that. I hope so, I said. As my mother drove away following the moving truck, I stood alone in the driveway of the house I'd grown up in. Tomorrow it would belong to someone else. Tomorrow it would start helping people instead of hurting them. I pulled out my phone and texted Marcus. It's done. The house is empty. Mom's moved out. His response was immediate. How are you doing? Okay, I think. Sad, relieved, confused. All of it at once. Want to get dinner? Jennifer and I are cooking if you want to come over. An invitation to dinner. A simple, normal thing. The kind of thing siblings did when they actually liked each other. I'd love that, I texted back. Dinner at Marcus and Jennifer's was surprisingly normal. Their kids, my nieces and nephew, were excited to see me. 7-year-old Sophie hugged me and said, Mommy says you're very brave. What did you do? Jennifer looked mortified. Sophie, we talked about this. It's okay, I said, kneeling down to Sophie's level. I did something that was hard but necessary. Sometimes being brave means standing up for yourself even when people don't understand. Like when I told Tommy he couldn't be mean to me anymore? Sophie asked. Exactly like that, I said. And Sophie beamed. Over dinner, we didn't talk about the drama. We talked about normal things, work, school, the kids' activities. It was so ordinary that it was almost magical. As I was leaving, Jennifer walked me to my car. Emma, I want you to know something. Marcus and I have been talking. If you ever want to see the kids, spend time with them, you're always welcome here. No conditions. No drama. Just family. Just family, I repeated. That sounds nice. It should have been like this all along, she said. I'm sorry we didn't make it happen sooner. You're making it happen now, I said. That's what matters. The defamation trial against my father was set for 3 months later. Daniel was confident we'd win, and the evidence certainly supported that. But I found that I cared less about winning in court and more about winning back my peace of mind. In the weeks following the house transfer, something interesting happened. People started reaching out to me, not to apologize for believing my father's lies, though some did that too, but people I'd helped over the years through my work at the social services agency. People whose lives I'd quietly made better. I got letters, emails, messages. You helped me get housing when I was sleeping in my car with my kids. You connected me with job training that changed my life. You believed in me when no one else did. I'd been so focused on my family's rejection that I'd forgotten about the other family I'd built. The community of people I'd served, the colleagues who valued my work, the friends like Daniel who'd stood by me. One letter particularly moved me. It was from a woman named Teresa whom I'd worked with 2 years ago. She'd been escaping an abusive marriage with 3 young children. I'd helped her navigate the system, find housing, get legal aid. Dear Emma, she wrote, I heard rumors about you supposedly stealing from your family. I wanted you to know that anyone who's worked with you knows those rumors are lies. You're the most honest, generous person I've ever met. You saved my life. You saved my children's lives. Whatever you're going through with your family, please know that you have hundreds of people out here who are grateful for you and who believe in you. You are not alone. I cried reading that letter. Happy tears. Healing tears. My father, meanwhile, was spiraling. According to Marcus, who still heard gossip through his wife's connections, my father had become increasingly isolated. His lies about me had been exposed by the lawsuit evidence. His business was gone. His marriage to my mother was strained to breaking. James was apparently getting tired of him living there and complaining constantly. He keeps saying this is all your fault, Marcus told me, that you destroyed his life out of spite. What do you think? I asked. Marcus didn't hesitate. I think he destroyed his own life through decades of terrible choices, and you just stopped enabling him to avoid the consequences. That's not the same thing. 6 weeks after the eviction, my mother got a job. She called me excitedly to tell me about it. It's at an elementary school, she said, her voice bright in a way I hadn't heard in years. I'm going to be a teacher's aide. It doesn't pay much, but Emma, I loved the interview. I forgot how much I loved working with children. That's wonderful, Mom, I said. And I meant it. Your father thinks I'm being ridiculous, she continued. He says it's beneath me to work for minimum wage. But I don't care what he thinks. I need this. I need to be my own person for once. Good for you, I said. How are things with you and Dad? There was a long pause. Not good. We're barely speaking. He's still living with James, and I think that's going to be permanent. We're talking about legal separation. How do you feel about that? Terrified, she admitted. And relieved. Is that normal? Completely normal, I assured her. Change is scary even when it's good. Will you have coffee with me sometime? She asked. I'd like to tell you about my first week at work. And I'd like to hear about your life. Real conversations, Emma. The kind we should have been having all along. I'd like that, Mom. We met for coffee the next weekend. She told me about her job, about the kids she was working with, about how strange and wonderful it felt to have her own money. I told her about my work, about the cases I was passionate about the plans I had for expanding some of the programs I'd been quietly funding. You're doing so much good in the world, she said. I'm proud of you, Emma. I should have told you that years ago. You're telling me now, I said. That's what matters. It wasn't perfect. She still sometimes slipped into old patterns, trying to make excuses for my father's behavior, or suggesting I should be the bigger person and forgive him. But when I called her out on it, she listened. She apologized. She tried to do better. It was more than I'd ever expected. The defamation trial came and went. We won, predictably. My father was ordered to pay damages and issue a public retraction. He appealed, of course. But Daniel wasn't worried. He's broke and discredited, Daniel said. The appeal won't go anywhere. You've won, Emma, completely. But winning didn't feel quite like I'd expected. There was satisfaction, yes, vindication, but also sadness. I'd wanted my father to see me, to value me, to love me. Instead, I'd had to legally force him to stop hurting me. That wasn't a victory. That was just survival. Marcus and I continued our weekly coffee meetings. Sometimes Jennifer joined us. They invited me to Sophie's piano recital, and I went. I bought Christmas presents for the kids 3 months early because I was excited to be part of their lives. Slowly, carefully, we built something real. James eventually reached out, not with an apology, but with a request. Dad's making my life miserable. Can you please just let him come back to the house? No, I said simply. You're so selfish, he exploded. You have millions, and you can't even let your own father have a place to live? James, I said calmly. Dad called me an idiot and banned me from Christmas. He then spent weeks destroying my reputation with lies. He's never once apologized. Why would I reward that behavior? Because he's our father. Being someone's father doesn't give you the right to abuse them, I said. I learned that the hard way. Maybe Dad needs to learn it too. James hung up on me. I didn't hear from him again. My father finally issued the court-ordered public retraction. It was printed in the local paper, posted on social media, and sent to everyone he'd contacted with his lies. It read, I, Richard Carter, publicly acknowledge that I made false statements about my daughter, Emma Carter, regarding fraud and theft. These statements were untrue. Emma Carter lawfully inherited property from her grandmother and has broken no laws. I retract all previous statements and apologize for any harm caused. The apology was court-ordered, not genuine, but it was there, in black and white, public acknowledgement that I'd been telling the truth all along. The day it was published, I got dozens of messages. I knew he was lying. You deserved better. I'm sorry we didn't believe you sooner. It was validating. But what mattered more were the messages from people like Teresa, people I'd helped over the years, saying things like, we always knew who you really were. 3 months after everything exploded, I was having dinner with Daniel at our favorite restaurant when my phone rang. It was my mother. Emma, it's your father, she said, her voice tight with stress. He's in the hospital, heart attack. It's bad. My first instinct was familiar guilt. I should go. I should help. I should put aside everything and rush to his side because that's what daughters do. But then I stopped, took a breath, and asked the question I should have been asking all along. What do I want to do? I looked at Daniel, who'd been listening. Your call entirely, he said. No judgment either way. I thought about my father, this man who'd shaped so much of my pain, this man who'd called me an idiot, destroyed my reputation, and never once genuinely apologized. This man who was still my father. Is he going to be okay? I asked my mother. The doctors think so. But Emma, he's asking for you. He says he needs to talk to you. What do you think I should do? I asked her. There was a long pause. Then my mother said something I never expected. I think you should do whatever feels right for you. Not for him. Not for me. For you. If you don't want to come, I'll understand. It was the first time in my life my mother had put my needs first. I'll come, I said finally. But Mom, I'm coming for you. To support you. Not to make peace with Dad unless he's genuinely ready to apologize. That's fair, she said. At the hospital, my father looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Pale, fragile, hooked up to machines. My mother was sitting beside his bed, looking exhausted. She stood when I arrived and hugged me. Thank you for coming, she whispered. My father's eyes opened. When he saw me, his expression was complex. Shame, anger, fear, all mixed together. Emma, he said, his voice weak. Dad, I thought you wouldn't come. I almost didn't, I said honestly. I pulled up a chair but didn't sit too close. Mom said you wanted to talk to me. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, the doctors say I need to reduce stress. That anger is literally killing me. Okay, I said, waiting. I've been angry for so long, he continued. Angry at the world, angry at myself, taking it out on everyone around me, especially you. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was the closest I'd ever heard him come to admitting fault. Why especially me? I asked. He looked away. Because you remind me of my own father. The way you stand up for yourself, your principles, your refusal to compromise who you are. I hated those things in him, and I hated seeing them in you. That was honest, at least. Painfully honest. So you tried to break me, I said. Not a question. A statement. Yes. He looked back at me, and there were tears in his eyes. And you wouldn't break. You just got stronger. And that made me angrier. So you called me an idiot and threw me out, I said. I wanted to hurt you the way you were hurting me by refusing to be controlled. He closed his eyes. I'm a terrible father, Emma. I know that now. It took losing everything to see it. But I see it. Is this an apology? I asked. It's an acknowledgement, he said. I'm not sure I know how to apologize. I'm not sure I even know what real love looks like. I just know that lying in this hospital bed, thinking I might die, all I could think about was how I'd wasted your entire life trying to make you something you weren't, instead of celebrating who you are. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. It still wasn't enough, but it was something. What do you want from me, Dad? I asked. Nothing, he said, and he sounded surprised by his own answer. For the first time in my life, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just telling you the truth. You were right, about everything. And I'm sorry I couldn't see it until I'd destroyed everything trying to be right. We sat in silence for a while. My mother had left the room, giving us privacy. It was just me and my father, and decades of damage between us. I forgive you, I finally said. His eyes widened. What? I forgive you. Not because you deserve it. Not because everything's okay now. But because carrying anger around is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I forgive you, so I can be free. I don't deserve that, he whispered. No, I agreed. You don't. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. What happens now? He asked. Now? You recover. You work on becoming a better person. And maybe, if you can actually change, if you can show through actions instead of words that you're capable of treating people with respect, maybe we can have some kind of relationship eventually. But Dad, I'm not going to hold my breath. I've spent 26 years waiting for you to see me. I'm done waiting." "That's fair," he said. I stood to leave. At the door, I turned back. "Dad, I did learn something from you." "What's that?" "I learned exactly what kind of parent I never want to be. So thanks for that, I guess." It was harsh, but it was true. And for once, he didn't argue. In the months that followed, my father did try to change. Small steps. He went to therapy. He stopped drinking, which apparently had been a bigger problem than anyone had admitted. He got a job doing consulting work on a contract basis, rebuilding his career from scratch without the ego that had destroyed it the first time. He and my mother legally separated, and she bloomed in his absence. Her job at the school became a permanent position with benefits. She made friends. She started painting, a hobby she'd abandoned 30 years ago. She became someone I actually enjoyed spending time with. Marcus and I grew closer. Jennifer became the sister I'd never had. Their kids started calling me Auntie Emma and demanding my presence at every family event. James stayed angry. Some people aren't ready to face their own complicity. I had to accept that. My father reached out occasionally. Awkward text messages. "Hope you're well. Saw an article about your work." Impressive. Small attempts at connection without demands. I responded politely but distantly. Trust had to be earned back, not assumed. 1 year after the Christmas text that changed everything, I was invited to speak at a conference about family services. The topic was funding innovative programs for at-risk families. I talked about the programs I'd been secretly supporting, the families we'd helped, the difference that intervention could make. After my speech, a young woman approached me. She was about 19, with a baby on her hip and determination in her eyes. "Ms. Carter, I'm Angela Rodriguez. You worked with my family 4 years ago when we were homeless. You helped my mom find housing and job training. You helped me get into community college. I just wanted to say thank you. I graduated last month. I'm going to be a social worker too." I hugged her. This young woman who represented everything I'd been fighting for. "I'm so proud of you, Angela. You saved us," she said simply. "My mom always says you're an angel." "I'm not an angel," I said. "I'm just someone who believes everyone deserves a chance." That night, I had dinner with my mother. She'd started a tradition of monthly dinners, just the two of us, where we actually talked about real things. "I saw your speech online," she said. "Emma, you're changing lives, hundreds of them." "Thanks, Mom." "Your father watched it too. He called me after. He was crying, said he finally understood what you'd been trying to tell him all those years." "Better late than never, I guess," I said. "He wants to see you, to really talk. Not in a hospital, not with time pressure. Just talk. Would you be willing?" I thought about it. Maybe, eventually. "But Mom, I need you to understand something. Even if Dad and I achieve some kind of peace, things will never go back to how they were. That version of our family is gone. Dead. We can build something new, maybe. But only if everyone involved actually changes." "I understand," she said. "And Emma, I'm proud of the boundaries you've set. I'm trying to learn to set some of my own. How's that going?" I asked. She smiled. "Hard, but worth it. I told your father last week that I'm not getting back together with him. He asked if we could try again, and I said no. For the first time in my life, I chose my own peace over his feelings. It felt terrifying and amazing. "Good for you, Mom," I said, and I meant it with my whole heart. 2 years after the Christmas text, I was thriving. My work had gained recognition. I'd been promoted to Director of Family Services at my agency. The programs I'd been funding had expanded dramatically. I'd even started a foundation in my grandmother's name to support similar work nationwide. I'd also started dating. Nothing serious yet, but I was learning what it felt like to be valued by someone who saw me clearly and liked what they saw. His name was Aaron. He was a teacher, and he thought my compassion was a strength, not a weakness. On Christmas Eve, I received a package. No return address, but the handwriting on the label was my father's. Inside was a small wooden box and a letter. "Dear Emma, the letter began. I know I have no right to send you anything or expect anything from you, but I made this for you. I've taken up woodworking in therapy. Making things with my hands helps me process what I've destroyed with my words. This box is made from wood from the tree in the backyard of the house you grew up in. The house I lost through my own cruelty. The house you turned into something beautiful. I wanted you to have a piece of it, not as a gift that expects anything back. Just as an acknowledgement of what you did. You took something broken and made it into shelter for others. That's who you are. I'm sorry it took me 58 years to see it. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a response. I just wanted you to know that I see you now. Really see you. And what I see is extraordinary. Merry Christmas, Emma. You deserve so much better than the father I was. I hope I can someday be even a fraction of the father you deserved. Dad. I held the wooden box. It was beautiful, clearly made with care and attention. Inside was a folded piece of paper. I opened it to find the Christmas text from 2 years ago, printed out. Across it, my father had written in red ink, "The worst thing I ever wrote. I'm sorry doesn't cover it, but I'm sorry anyway." I showed the letter to Aaron, who'd come over for a quiet Christmas Eve dinner. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to respond. Part of me thinks it's too little, too late. What does your gut say? I thought about it. Really listened to my instincts instead of my fear or my hope. My gut says that everyone deserves the chance to change, even him, even after everything. But change has to be proven, not just promised. So I'll send a thank you for the gift. I'll acknowledge that I see he's trying, but I won't pretend we're suddenly okay. Real relationships are built over time, through consistent actions. If he's serious about changing, he'll understand that. I wrote back a simple message. "Dad, thank you for the gift. It's beautiful. I can see the care you put into making it. I appreciate the apology. I hope you continue on this path of growth and healing. Maybe someday we can build something new. Not the relationship we had, but something healthier. Until then, I wish you well. Emma." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was an open door. Just a crack. What he did with that was up to him. This Christmas, I spent the day with my chosen family. My mother, who'd become a real mother to me in the past 2 years. Marcus, Jennifer, and their kids, who'd proven that family could change and grow. Daniel, my best friend and the brother I'd chosen. Aaron, who was quickly becoming more important to me than I'd expected. And a few close friends from work who'd become like sisters. We had dinner, exchanged gifts, told stories, and laughed. There was no tension, no walking on eggshells, no waiting for the criticism or the cutting remark, just joy and love, and the warm feeling of being exactly where I belonged. As we raised glasses for a toast, my mother said, "To Emma, who taught us all what it means to value yourself, and to families we build by choice, not just by blood." "To Emma," everyone echoed. I looked around at these faces, these people who'd chosen to know me, to value me, to love me not despite who I was, but because of it. This was my real family. This was what I'd been searching for all along. 3 years after the Christmas text, my father and I had built something small but real. We met for coffee once a month. The conversations were carefully shallow at first, but gradually deepened. He told me about his therapy, his woodworking, his attempts to understand where he'd gone wrong. I told him about my work, my life, my boundaries. It would never be what it should have been. He would never be the father I'd needed as a child. But he was becoming someone I could have a civil, occasionally even pleasant relationship with. Someone who'd faced his own toxicity and was genuinely trying to be better. That was more than I'd expected. And it was enough. This story teaches us that you cannot buy love, respect, or healthy relationships with money or endless tolerance of abuse. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. It's self-preservation. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries and work to earn back broken trust through consistent actions, not just words. Financial generosity means nothing if it's used to enable bad behavior or to try to earn affection from people who refuse to give it freely. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to stop accepting unacceptable treatment, even from family, even when it's painful. The situation my father created with that text message revealed a profound truth about power dynamics and consequences. Those who treat others as worthless while secretly depending on them for survival are building their own collapse. Abuse, whether emotional or financial, eventually demands accountability. The moment you stop enabling dysfunction is the moment real change becomes possible, not just for you, but potentially for everyone involved. Have you ever been in a situation similar to what I experienced, where someone took your generosity for granted while treating you poorly? Share your story in the comments below. And if you believe in the power of boundaries, self-worth, and choosing your own peace over toxic family obligations, give this a like and subscribe for more stories like this. Let me know where you're watching from.